All right, you begin.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Rion Roberts, and with my partner Vishana Pagu, we're going to be tackling chapter 15, Lead and Change. So, yeah, this chapter deals with change. It's kind of short, simple, sweet, but as we're going to see, it's something that's very important to be knowledgeable about. Let's consider the meaning of lead and change. All right, well, this is a little obvious, but a leader needs to fully understand why the change is important. Okay, whether this concerns changes that would bring about increased profits or better conditions for employees, or would help fulfill the business's corporate social responsibility, it needs to be carefully deliberated on. Leaders also need to think about how the subordinates will react. Resistance is a given, basically, but it's important to not let this resistance turn you away, so to speak, because of the idea of change or perish. Okay, if it's the case that other firms uh, try a new stuff and it's working good for them, or they're adapting to the times, okay, economic shifts, cultural shifts, social shifts, and you're still there with your old ways and you're not making any efforts to evolve, all right? The firm would be acting with this kind of backwards mindset that would just very much hamper them. And stubbornness is something that kills, has killed a lot of organizations. Okay, so we're talking about needing to understand the importance of change and change or perish. So now I think it would be good to look at some strategies for bringing about this change. So when it comes to leading major change, leaders must recognize that the change process is stage by stage. The completion of each stage, of course, requires a lot of time and effort. So now let's look at each stage model of plan change. Stage one, identify and champion the need for change. To bring about change, leaders must first, they have to say, okay, here are issues, and here's how we can get things done. We need to be firm champions of this change. Let's look at an example of this. So back in 1929, so about nearly 90 years ago, a period known as the Great Depression began. During this few years, I believe it was about a span of 5 or 7 years, this period spanned from, the US economy was in ruins, okay? High unemployment, widespread poverty. And then this fellow on the right here, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, introduced what is known as the New Deal. This consisted of programs, reforms, all with the goals of changing the awful state of the country, changing it for the better. Now, historically, Roosevelt is one of the most popular presidents in American history for what he did. During the time when he brought about the New Deal, Americans saw the dire state that they were in. Okay, as we see here on the left, poor people, unemployed people lining up for free food. And they saw President Roosevelt championing this New Deal. And so they said to themselves, all right, let's back this guy. So that's one example. Stage two, build a coalition. This one's fairly self-explanatory. You know, you've heard all the cliches, no I in team, but can't be understated just how important meaningful cooperation is. An emphasis on meaningful, not in half big, full commitment. And it's important that this takes place at all levels, not just between managers, okay, employees to really need to be involved with this, building coalitions with everybody in the organization. Stage 3, developing a plan. Leaders must be able to develop a concrete, concise plan for change. And they have to be able to explain this as effectively as possible. Good example of these plans being developed and explained effectively and efficiently would be relating to COVID-19. So let's look at two leaders and their plans. So on the left, we have Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And she did a fantastic job in New Zealand. She locked down the country tight, okay, and their infection rate dropped, their death rate dropped. They have been rated highly, one of the best performing countries in the world for COVID-19. And of course, here on the right, we have our Prime Minister, Keith Rowley. Say what he wants about him, but in my opinion, I don't believe he was vague or confusing at any point. And something as dangerous as COVID has killed 1.2 million people. Being vague is not at all ideal. Stage 4, communicate division. This kind of relates in part to the previous stage. Leaders need to be able to communicate to as much people as possible and as often as possible. Okay. Managers, employees, investors, and the general public too. Okay. Meetings and campaigning, to use that word, as much people as possible need to know and understand. Stage 5, empowering subordinates to act on the vision. Leaders must allow their subordinates to have a sense of agency, a sense of power in the process of change. This involves removing barriers that were previously preventing them from becoming more involved in the change process. Okay, organizations can become very, strict with their bureaucracy, and it's hard to, employees to navigate. So a leader needs to remove these barriers. Then with the knowledge, and allow them to have their voices be heard. Give them the key to power, so to speak. Stage 6, generate short-term victories. As major change can be a lengthy process, an issue that may be faced would be lowered morale among those involved with the change process. Okay, these people involved might say, hey, we're doing all this work and I can't see any noticeable change. So a leader wants to avoid that by, during the course of this change process, having key points in which employees can notice improvements, clear improvements, and seeing this would keep them energized, keep them motivated, and encourage them to continue on. Stage 7, keeping up the pace. Now, this is kind of I guess you could call it a rebuttal of the previous stage. Okay, leaders should not allow these short-term victories to, let them become complacent. Okay, an analogy I thought of would be involving war. So let's say the leader is a general and the employees are soldiers. In a war, when you win one battle, a general wouldn't just stop fighting, kick up their feet and say, okay. No, they continue fighting until the war is finished. In the same way, I guess you could say that change process is like a quote unquote war in that sense. So the energy, in fact, that is generated from these short-term victories should be carried on, and the momentum should allow them to tackle even bigger problems. Page 8, make any changes stick. Leaders must assure that the changes become firmly rooted. Okay? You don't want to bring about all these changes and people still going back to their old ways. No. The new normal must be made secure at all costs. It's important to know that there's, overlap, okay? The previous 8 stages were in a sequential order, but they kind of bleed into each other. Bleed in everyday change. Okay, so what we just talked concern, big major change plans, but there are things leaders can do every day, little small things they can do, which can be in many ways just as effective. So let's look at 4 small scale strategies that can gradually bring about change. First would be creative self-expression. This involves a leader performing unique, highly visible actions that they want their followers to emulate. Okay, so this would be doing things very differently with the intention that others would follow, breaking the status quo, so to speak. An example given in the book would be that a leader who wears more casual clothes in the workplace would facilitate a more friendly environment. An idea that I thought of would be, let's say, a political leader having like a motto or a symbol or a gesture that they use on the campaign trail to set themselves apart from their opponents. And they do this in such a way that they encourage their followers to join in, use their mottos, use their gestures, use their symbols. This would create this very unique identity. This uniqueness would be like a circular loop, and it would like foster devotion among these the followers of the leader. Second strategy would be using the right words. Okay, so something that has been discussed a lot in the past few years would be microaggressions. A microaggression would be when somebody unintentionally reveals their prejudices when trying to be conversational. So one employee would be talking to another employee and they would kind of give them like a backhanded compliment, kind of straddling the line between a compliment and an insult. So let's give an example. So a man would look at a woman and say like, oh, I'm surprised that they hired a woman, or, okay, I didn't think a woman could be in such a position as you. Thinking that they're being friendly or conversational, but really they're just exposing themselves, their deep-seated prejudices. So, as stated here, a good leader would take these negative comments, attitudes, or behaviors and turn them into positive forces for change. Using that same example with men and women, let's say that a leader who sees these negative comments about women, let's say the majority of workers in an organization are men, okay, very few women, and they see this woman being, harassed for her gender, and he positions her in a place to champion, okay, more as a champion, as a strong woman in the workplace. Third strategy, take any right opportunities. This might be one of the most important of these everyday strategies. This is simply seizing an opportunity, okay? Seeing a skilled employee and putting them in the right place, seeing an underperforming group and saying to yourself, okay, I need to put these guys under different conditions so that they can work better. It's pretty important. And strategy would be building alliances, similar to what we discussed back in major changes. It's building these strong alliances every day, even if it's just a little friendship, very important. Okay, now I'd like to hand over to my partner, Rishana.
Hi everyone. So I was talking about leading innovation and creativity. Um, so leading for innovation, today leaders need to promote creativity in their organization in specific departments. So from the textbook, I got that hospitals, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations in the administrative sector really want creativity to be in there. And this is so that they could have innovative ideas from these people. I will explain this further on. So, creativity in the organization means the collection of ideas that are both useful and for improving efficiency and effectiveness of said organization. So, good leaders know how to encourage and inspire all of their employees to get these traits. They can even tap into the most closed up person if they're good enough, which they're supposed to be. So the creative organization is important for the growth of for the growth of it. And they can have this by nourishing that creative side of everyone, creating an environment that's creative oriented and friendly. So I got a table from the textbook and I will discuss it further. So the innovative organization needs alignment, and what they need from their employees are commitment and focused approach. The organization need creative values, so the person should have interdependence, persistence, and the energy to keep up with this. The organization can offer an official activity. I will explain that and why it's useful. So they would need people with self-confidence, non-conformity, and curiosity. Diverse stimuli, open-mindedness, conceptual fluency, and enjoys variety. And within company communication or intercommunication, they would need people with social competence, emotionally experienced, and loves people. And I think loves people is like a stretch. I think it should be tolerates people. That's just probably just me, but I think so. So for alignment, for creative acts that will benefit the organization, everyone's interests and actions should be aligned with the organization's purpose, vision, and goals. Leaders will make it clear and state what the company stands for, and they should clarify the specific goals that they want to achieve. Leaders that see the benefit of doing this will need to make a commitment of time, energy, and resources for these activities, as I mentioned before. They will get their employees to focus on being innovative and creative. And they can do this by having something called an idea incubator. It's not really a physical thing, but it's a safe space where employees throughout the organization can introduce their ideas to employees, even their superiors, without the interference of company bureaucracy or politics. So, no interference from the superiors, but they could witness and listen to what their employees have to say. And well, politics, that's a no brainer. Creative values. Everyone has a natural desire to explore and create, which leads them to want to embrace their creative side. Sometimes the desire may be too deep rooted, as I said before, and it should be no problem for a good leader to bring this out in a person. I work with somebody who's like that. She's actually an editor, so it's really strange to see her completely closed up. But now she's starting to get over that, which is great for us. So leaders can even encourage entrepreneurial spirits by instilling the values of risk taking and exploration by providing the structures and systems that encourage employees to explore new ideas. This is called corporate entrepreneurship, and the importance of this is making a pathway for idea champions. So, actually, my boss is doing that. I do marketing, even though my degree is in journalism. So, it's strange, but it's helping me learn different things. And I think of myself as an idea champion. An idea champion are people who passionately believe in an idea and fight to overcome natural resistance and convince others of its value. Personal energy from these people are needed to successfully promote a new idea. Champions make sure valuable ideas get accepted and carried forward for implementation. So I use this word because some people like to say that I'm stubborn and own way. I beg to differ. I'm an idea champion. Unofficial activity. To nurture creativity in employees, leaders have to create the environment, as I mentioned before. So, unofficial activity can help with this. So, employees can give their, leaders can give their employees time, like during the work week, that to focus on activities that are not work centric. And this will help with their innovative skills. An example of this is the 3M post-it notes. We all use it. Might not be 3M, but it might be another brand. And this all came about in 1968 when Spencer Silver, a scientist at the 3M headquarters in Maplewood, was working on a adhesive. He was trying to make a strong adhesive, but ended up making something weak. So he didn't know what to do with it. So it was just, a creation that he had lying around. And another employee, Art Fry, who was in a church choir, had scrap paper just keep falling out of his hymn book. So I guess they were bookmarks, but they called it scrap paper. And he thought of the creation that Silver came up with, and he said, I don't want these paper to stick onto this page permanently, but I would want it to stay there and not fall out every time I open my book. And so he took his idea, went to Silver, said, hey, I want to use your adhesive. And, now we have Post-it notes, which are very helpful, by the way. Another example of this is Google. They let their employees take 20% of time a day per work week to work on whatever they want. And as we know, Google changed their logo all the time to suit different days, different I really don't know how to say it, but like different causes, I guess I want to say. So, we have like gay pride flags. They have Dr. Seuss's birthday. We actually had one for Independence Day for Trinidad. It was really cool. So now on to diverse stimuli. So everyone has something that sparks that innovative drive. So as I mentioned before, good leaders know how to bring this out in a person. So examples that I got from the textbook are Hallmark, Nortel Networks Broadband, and Bell Laboratories / Lucent Technologies bring in motivational speakers on different topics to expose their workers to different ideas. And advertising agency Leo Burnett, holds a regular Inspire Me Day when one team takes the rest of the department out to do something that is not advertising centric. So some leaders found it effective when they rotated their employees and placed them in departments that they know nothing about. So this new environment may inspire them, motivate them, teach them a new skill, might even make them change their major, I assume. So in this, depending on where you work, this organization can give people opportunities to work with customers, suppliers, and others outside the industry. So my aunt works for TNZ, the tile and appliance place, and she talks to everybody, like everywhere. India, Greece, China. It's really cool. And well, she's really an accountant. So to have her do sales and do like pitch ideas and stuff like that, talk to these people, it's actually very interesting to hear about and learn from her. So internal communication. It is a group of processes and tools that are responsible for effective information flow and collaboration among employees of all levels in the organization. Without this, ideas from the creative department or idea champions can't be implemented. So an example is at Electrolux, an appliance company, CEO Hans Strasberg makes all of his employees work side by side. So designers, engineers, marketers, and production will work all together to create new products. I have that in my place that I work, and it's kind of because it's small and we don't have separate offices or anything, so we all just work together. Um, I'm really administrative. I work at a new cable channel, which I should probably mention as well. So we talk to the production manager, the director, we talk to the editors, talk to um, the guy who creates the logos. I forgot the title that they gave him, but I do all of that, and it's really cool because I learn different things. I give them ideas. So some things that you see on TV, it's because of me. I even voice ads, which I've never done before. It's really cool. So, leading creative people. In today's world, leaders need creative people to further the development of their organization, and they can get these employees to help with this when they are helped to be open-minded, curious, and willing to take risks. And only a good leader can do this. Leaders can increase individual creativity by facilitating brainstorming, lateral thinking, and creative intuition. Brainstorming uses face-to-face interaction in groups to share creative ideas to solve a problem. So in this no criticism, freewheeling is welcomed and quantity desired. I will explain quantity desired because it sounds strange. So no criticism. Group members should not criticize or evaluate the ideas in any way during a spontaneous outburst at this stage, as all ideas are considered valuable. Freewheeling is welcomed. People should express any idea that comes to mind, no matter how weird or impractical, and should not be timid about their creative thinking. Quantity desired. So this just means that any amount of ideas that come in, no matter who says it or what they said, it is welcomed and it is valued. Because you could take someone else's idea and merge it into another person's idea or your personal idea and create something useful for everybody. So electronic brainstorming is something that people have been doing these days due to COVID. So it's bringing people together in an interactive group over a computer network. Could also be called brainwriting. So we do electronic brainstorming all the time through Zoom or phone calls or what have you. So, lateral thinking. Lateral thinking can be defined as a set of systematic techniques used for changing mental concepts and perceptions and generating new ideas. I have a table of what it means to, lateral think. So verb put to other uses, the description, new ways to use as is, others if modified. All of this will be explained later on because this is kind of vague. So adapt, what else is like this? What other ideas does this suggest? Modify, change meaning, color, motion, sound, odor, form, shape, other changes. Magnify, what to add, greater frequency, stronger, larger, plus ingredient, exaggerate. Minify, what to subtract, eliminate, smaller, slower, lower, shorter, lighter, split up, less frequent. Substitute, who else instead, what else instead, other place, other time, rearrange, other layout, other sequence, change pace, reverse, transpose positive and negative, how about opposites? Turn it backwards, turn it upside down, reverse side, a reverse role. Combine, how about a blend, an alloy, an assortment, an ensemble? Combine units, combine purposes, combine appeals, combine ideas. So with lateral thinking, people will always try to get different perceptions, different concepts, and different points of entry to gain a novel solution by using an unorthodox method or illogical. To stimulate lateral thinking, leaders provide people with opportunities to use different parts of their brain and thus to make useful creative connections. To facilitate the creative flash from people, some managers reorganize frequently, as I mentioned before. They even hire people with diverse experiences and skills, as people with diverse skills challenge the status quo when developing strategies or responses to customers, depending on where you work. So, creative intuition is the ability to identify valuable and useful creative ideas into your subconscious. So, the intuition part comes into play when the ideas form in your head. It is described as instantaneous, since the conscious mind doesn't know how this idea was created. So, for me, when I'm taking a shower, because it's something relaxing to me, I all of a sudden come up with an idea, and it's always strange. It's just like, where did this come from? So, as I was researching, I saw that everything that you experience, it's stored into your subconscious. Like a computer, everything you download, it's there. You mightn't see it upfront, but it's still there. So when you're in the shower, you're all relaxed and your subconscious just brings about whatever it wants to the front of your head, depending on what you're thinking about. So that is how we have random ideas or random outbursts or spontaneous, you know, ideas, I guess. So I hand you over to Rihanna.
Okay, so speaking about creative intuition and brainstorming, all these creative ideas that can fuel good change. Let's talk about implementing change now. Problem with change implementation. A common issue leaders face when attempting to implement change is employee resistance. One of the primary reasons an employee would resist change is that change measure violates what is known as the personal compact. Now, the personal compact, it's essentially, it comes like a give and take between the employee and the employer. So let's take a look at this compact. It would be essentially the employee saying, okay, I work, you pay me, right? But also, okay, um, I contribute to the work culture and you provide me a safe environment to work in. Or you require these certain skills of me and I will fulfill my role. This personal compact is very complex and change can easily undo this complex web. So let's look at some ways of overcoming this resistance. An 8-stage change model for overcoming resistance. Developing employee skills. No, wait, I made an error. It's not 8 stage, it's just a few stages. So here we have developing employee skills. So just now when I discussed personal compact, like one example I gave is that, okay, you require this of me and I will fulfill my role. And okay, that's a problem for a lot of people. Okay, some employees feel cheated that a potential change measure would require skills that they do not have. So by developing employee skills, these employees can now adapt to the new changes. And it will reduce resistance as they no longer feel that, okay, these new changes are coming and I don't have the skills to work. Another would be using emotion. Okay, to wear down resistance. Okay, tell the leader should, tell jokes, be relatable, give a give practical examples. Like, okay, speaking to the employees, they might say, the reason we are bringing this change is because of this event. Just getting very personal with them, appealing to their emotions is very effective, a very powerful tool. And now, as a last ditch effort, you put your foot down, lay down the law, remind them who is in charge, and coerce them to work with you, to accept the change. Now, this isn't ideal at all. This will make people, the employees, very upset. It's not ideal to have to do this to your employees, but if you're in a crisis situation, things are very dire and change needs to happen now, well, you understand why it's a last resort. Okay, seeing how we just finished talking about dissatisfied employees, let's look at two faces of change. Recognizing the truth. Leaders kind of need to come to terms with the fact that change will eventually alienate somebody. Okay, it's cliche, but it really can't please everybody. There are simply people that just won't budge. And a leader to even try to reduce resistance to change, a leader needs to understand and accept this. However, things are getting bad, a leader can and should consider downsizing. When all else fails, you should just consider layoffs. This is twofold. First, you should make sure it's necessary. Then you should quickly make sure that, okay, the employees who might be leaving, they have a safety net, okay, you provide for them, maybe help them get employment elsewhere. Because if you don't do this, the employees that remain, their morale will just go off a cliff. Okay. That is one thing that will increase stress among the remaining employees, increase fear as well. Okay, wrapping up now. This chapter is about tools, proposals, and ideas for you to use as a leader. Okay, tools for leading major change, tools for innovation, tools for creativity, tools for implementation. So effectively, it was a showcasing of these tools, why they're effective, and why you should think about them as a leader. All right, thanks for listening. Rashana?
Thank you. And if you have any questions or what have you, you can email me. It's right there. I think this needs to be added to the e-classroom, so you don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so are there any questions that people would like to ask?
Yes. So I have one comment for Vashana and one question for the group. So
Okay.
Vashana, you had mentioned that you found it strange that you have a degree in journalism, but you work in marketing. And
Yeah.
I can identify with that because I am working in the accounts department for 19 years. I'm now doing my
Mm.
bachelor's in accounting, but I graduated with an associate in social work 2 years ago, right here in Customs. And I don't find that that is strange for us. I think of it as us being more marketable because while it is you have a degree in one field, you're also gaining knowledge and wisdom and experience in another field. So you are not limited to only being employable in the field in which you have a degree, but you also can work in another field which you are doing.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely enjoy doing the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just kind of scary because I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but it's a lot of fun.
You know, you should try social work. I think it's even scarier, but I mean, I think I don't think we are strange. I just think we are more marketable because we are not limited to any one particular field. So that's good.
I take that as a compliment.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. And the question for the group is, and you all could use any one of your companies, but how do your leaders or managers deal with employees who are resistant to change?
Um, for me, they don't at all. They just don't deal with things, which is really horrible. So your group talked about like sexual harassment and stuff. So I'm dealing with that from two people separately, separate times, all day, every day when I go to work. So they don't deal with that. I try to talk about it. They don't. So yeah, they're really resistant to change. So I don't think I should answer that, Rion.
Uh, well, I don't. I've never had a job, so I can't really
Oh.
speak about my boss or anything because I don't have a job.
Well, for me, no, they don't. Yeah, they don't accept change.
Okay. One thing I have to say, right? When it says, Bashana said that when she's bathing, ideas come to her mind. I started to laugh automatically because you are bathing. I tend to, when I drink, I tend to get ideas coming to my mind. So
Everyone
before
gets a
every
different.
major assignment, I have to drink. Have to definitely drink. I mean, I'm not an alcoholic because yeah, I mean, I'm not an alcoholic because these assignments are due maybe once in a while, once a week, once every 2 weeks. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
talking about major assignments here, like for
Yeah.
example, real writing assignments where you have to do extremely serious brain work. So it was funny that you said it like that. And I was like, hey, let somebody have a different way of getting ideas.
This is
I
the
know some
first
people,
time
some
I've
people say when they're singing in the shower.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Like good presentation, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay, Rion, you said that the new normal must remain secure at all costs. So my question is, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago has really made that change or adapted to the new normal? And to follow up, has the government done enough to ensure that this new normal remains secure?
Hmm.
I think
Well,
there's a, I think it's a little beyond Rion to answer a question of that nature.
well,
Honestly,
okay.
you're asking him to analyze all of Trinidad and Tobago and our response collectively as a society to the regulations and changes that have been taking place. I mean, what he could probably do is give you how he feels about it as much, but whether or not it's successful or not, um, I think that's beyond his call. Um, because he may definitely lack the amount of information necessary to determine whether it's been a good thing or not. Rian, what do you think?
Well, from my experience, first let's talk about the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Have they adapted to this new normal? Well, it depends. Some yes, some not at all. Not at all. Um, the government, I think the government, my opinion, has done an all right job.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So if there are no more questions, we're gonna stop the recording. All right. Good presentation, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.